We're not rehearsed.
No, we're not.
And we are live. So we came to the end of our time here. Thank you for listening and signing off. Radek Wyrzykowski.
John Roberts.
Mark Hansen.
Yes.
Thank you. Clear prep. And mics are clear. Music is playing, so now we can do after show here.
After the show, yeah. Wow. So Mark, tell me, is most of your flying with pals? I mean, do you still do, go with your family a little bit or do much of that, or?
90% is nonprofit now.
Really? Okay, so wow. And would you say it's the same for most people that do it at your level? They just, that's their mission, that's their.
No, I think the most common person does probably 5 a year, 5 to 10 a year. Someone that's doing a lot is doing 1 a month.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then there's only a handful of us that are doing 50 plus a year.
Right.
That's.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You don't need to be doing 50, 1 a year is good.
Yeah.
But what happens is once you get started, it's rather addictive seeing the appreciation.
Yeah. And it's jet the most common airplane that you personally try to take, or you?
Yeah.
Do you have the same plane, Mark? Same plane? You've had a couple of years now?
Third one of the same kind.
Oh, you love it though. You love that model, don't you?
It's addictive. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's
very
great.
good for this mission. It's very fast. It's very easy to get in and out of.
Yeah.
And I can fly in just about anything. So that works.
It's insane because I still, Mark, remember you in 172. It's just insane how fast you went from 0 to jet. I mean, come on.
That was 3 years. I've been flying the Eclipse 11 years.
Wow.
I've got 1,200 hours in the Eclipse and 2,400 overall now. So
half your time is in the Eclipse. Wow. Yeah.
And then I had 500 in the Meridian before that. But when you guys first knew me, my first 3 years, I did 1,000 hours. So I slowed down a lot.
Now, do you have problems going back to something small? If you would, let's say, put yourself in 172 now, does it make a big difference for you, or?
Well, I
besides, the feeling that you're going way too slow.
I put myself in a Cirrus.
It's like, we ever going to get there?
Yeah, well, I just flew a Cirrus from here to Oshkosh and back. And that was like, what did I do? Basically, it was so had a 40-knot headwind in a Cirrus the entire trip to Oshkosh. That was painful. But on the way back, I managed to squeeze in a PALS flight and did a 3-hour, 15-minute leg with a 16-year-old girl in a halo. So if you think you look bad, she had a halo screwed into her skull and a thing holding her face in place from having her jaw extended. And trying to figure out an altitude where she wouldn't be bumped around and complain.
Right. Oh, that's another thing we forgot to mention. Yeah, turbulence. I mean, how do you? Yeah,
well, it doesn't matter for most of them. But some of them you can just know it's going to be uncomfortable, and
right. Yeah, but wow.
Are those people? I mean, mostly somebody who've done it before, or you have patients that are for the first time in a small airplane, or maybe first time in the airplane. Period.
We have. It's rare to have a first-time flyer. I've had only a handful of those, but we've had a lot that are first time in a small airplane. Maybe 10% of my flights have been that way, and for the most part, they're just happy not to be driving.
Yeah.
Because if you're ill and driving 8 hours or 7 hours, it's worse than cramming yourself into a small airplane.
And Mark, do you ever put somebody in the right seat?
I do it a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a brain cancer woman that I was taking on a long flight from Boston to South Carolina, and she had never ever been in a co-pilot seat. And she had always wanted to fly an airplane. So I clicked off the autopilot, let her hand fly, and had her follow me down to the runway. She got out of the plane and said,
Okay,
landed
guys,
the airplane.
stand by for a second. I need to terminate the other broadcast and then reset some wires here so we can hear each other. So things may drop, audio may drop for a second here. Let me see. Which one? Mic and speakers. Okay, cancel. Mic. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now we can talk again.
But that must have been a real thrill for him, Mark, to have someone sit in the right seat of a eclipse like that. What a
Oh, yeah,
view.
a lot of them, it's a big treat. Some of them are little kids, some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
And there's some cases where you don't want them to sit in the right seats.
Yeah, I'll bet. 'Cause you put me in the back, and yeah. Wow. And how many do you have? How many do you have in the eclipse, Mark? How many seats do you have behind you?
Usually we have 2 to 3 behind us, depending on
Okay.
what the requirement is. We could have 4, but it gets crowded.
Right. Wow.
So any emergencies that you had with PALS, with passengers? Anything that?
I mean, in PALS in general, knock on wood, we've really not had any incidents with that. Because and it's really a sign of the vetting process. If you vetted the passengers well, you're not going to get a surprise.
Yeah.
A few of the other organizations that are perhaps smaller or less mature have had some of those incidents. I had a near miss one where we had a baby that had epilepsy, and I was splitting the flight because they were going from Boston to Atlanta. I flew halfway and handed the passenger off. The pilot in the next leg, the baby sees, the parents went bananas, sees the emergency landing, and everything worked out. But it prompted us to put in an epilepsy policy at PALS, for example, to say, we need to have a doctor sign off that this patient has been seizure-free for 3 years.
Yeah.
We don't want a general aviation pilot dealing with commotion inside the airplane.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, because that could be dangerous. I mean, especially for somebody who is, those are all volunteer pilots, so they are not really trained for
stressful environments. And they haven't had simulator training where they're beaten up with every possible emergency. It's going to happen to you. You when you're doing type rating. So generally, all the programs are designed to make sure that the general aviation pilot is not put in an inappropriate situation.
All right, so I think we are at the end of our 10
Mark,
minutes after show here. Yeah, go ahead, John.
One last thing. Is Class 3 medical enough to take someone with you?
Yeah,
or do you have
basic med.
Okay. I don't know if you needed to, Okay. Yeah.
No. If you want the fuel reimbursement program, you need a Class 2 med.
Okay.
At least for PALS. Some of the other organizations are easier.
Yeah.
But the FAA imposes those rules because you're in essence getting paid to fly.
All right, I'm going to wrap up recording here.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mark, great seeing you. Thanks for coming on the
same here.
show. Yeah, that's great.